Welcome to The Prisoner's Dilemma, the show where we watch and talk about the 1960s TV show The Prisoner. I'm Brendan, and with me is my co-host, Matthew.
Now, wait a minute.
Yeah, what's up?
That's different than it usually is.
You're
telling me.
Yeah?
You're telling me I'm Matthew.
Yes, of course. Don't you see that framed photo of your fiancée you've had the whole time on their desk?
I guess I'm Matthew.
Well, I guess we did it, everybody.
I guess I better get ready to teach class. I've had a lot of nightmares about this, but never from the professor's perspective.
Yeah. They're pretty good. No, I'm sorry. I was lying to you.
Hang on. I got to do some vocal warm-ups in case, because I don't know if you can tell, but I think I still sound like Brendan, so I need to.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Hello. Hello, I'm Matthew. I'm real Matthew.
That's exactly what I sound like. Wow.
Have you heard of musical theater?
Oh, no, I didn't realize it was going to turn into a roast. I should have thought about that.
Anyone who gets their brain swapped with someone should immediately start roasting the other person.
They should, by all rights.
Instantly what they should think of to start doing.
Yeah. Sorry, audience, if you couldn't tell already, if you can't tell our voices apart. I'm actually Matthew. That's actually Brendan.
That's right. We were wearing masks the entire time. Here, we're going to switch them. We're going to switch the masks. All right. Now I'm wearing the mask that looks like my face, and you're wearing the mask that looks like your face.
Whoa, that's deep.
Yeah. We're like members of Ghost, and now we can finally do the podcast.
Now we can play in the band Ghost.
That's right. We won't be credited, but God, it's going to sound good.
It is. What the heck did we do this week, Brendan?
This week, we watched Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling.
We did do that. What'd you think of this one?
Out of all of the episodes of The Prisoner that we have watched for this show, I think this is the episode that I went into with much more different expectations going in than when I wrapped up. Because when I watched The Prisoner the first time, I watched this episode and I was like, whoa, this is neat. This is far out there. This is some real interesting television that they're doing here. And then I watched it this time and I was like, this sucks, actually.
Oh, this is far out, man.
It's pretty wacky stuff. I think there's stuff to appreciate in it, and I think that there's ideas that, like, I can appreciate as someone else that creates media in the world.
Totally.
Who has to deal with constraints that you didn't ask for, shall we say? I can appreciate how they arrived at what they did. And I can appreciate how bringing 2025 standards of what an episode of television ought to be like.
Yep.
I am maybe not being completely fair to it. But gosh, I think it holds up better on a first-time watch. What did you think of Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling?
This has been my low point in The Prisoner for the longest time. This episode, sorry, yes. I have long thought of this as like basically being non-canonical. because it's like it's just another show, basically. Like, it becomes another show for a bit. But in preparing for this episode, this recording episode, I actually learned a bunch of secrets revealed. Like, I learned a bunch of backstage stuff that actually makes me not appreciate the final product more, but appreciate the process and the ideas that went into that final product a lot more.
Sure. That's interesting. I had been under the impression that the more you learned, the angrier you were getting.
Now, that did happen. I had an arc off screen. Like many characters in this episode, I had arcs off screen. And my off screen arc was going from anger that they had they had an opportunity for such a better thing. And maybe it makes sense to just talk about this at the start. We've been sort of shifting to talking about development stuff, or development constraints at the start. Production constraints, I guess I should say. And then once I had time to relax and reflect on the episode, I could see how the better episode I thought they could have made still had pieces of it remaining in the final episode. And that made me appreciate those pieces more.
You are still one of Charles Xavier's most difficult students, the mutant who gets angrier the more he learns.
Well, there's just so many wrong people in the world.
Like, not Brendan. Stronger.
No, just
angry.
Just angrier. Yeah, everyone's really uncomfortable to be around me. Do you want to talk about the development constraints and what was happening in the background before we get into the episode proper?
Sure. So here's the thing. Mm-hmm. If you're not watching along, I get it. Mm-hmm. But those of you that are watching along, particularly those of you that are watching along for the first time, despite the enormous question mark shaped clues that I've been leaving in the trail, might have been astonished to discover when you watched this episode of The Prisoner starring Patrick McGoohan, that it barely features one Patrick McGoohan. And in fact, most of what you see is clips or voiceover or stunt double. And that is because this episode of The Prisoner was created mostly without Patrick McGoohan available, because they had originally planned on only making 13 episodes of The Prisoner, and they eventually extended it to 17. But Patrick McGoohan had already made arrangements based on the idea that he'd be filming 13 episodes.
Right.
And so this block of time, he was going to be out of town making something different. Now, what that different thing is, we'll talk about that later. But he was going to be absent. He was going to be gone for the period of time where he would not only star in the episode, but exercise a lot of his auteur animus upon the thing. Making it feel like the rest of The Prisoner has felt, because he has his hand on the steering wheel. And what you get, as I almost said Patrick, as Matthew describes, is basically a different show. It feels in very many ways just like another spy show that you would find on the BBC, or on ITC, excuse me, that you would find on British television at the time. I think you called this reheated Avengers slop. And while I've never watched the Avengers explicitly,
I said that.
This really and truly could be any TBS rerun in the middle of a Wednesday morning.
Yeah, exactly. Now, notably, and some of the listeners have called us out on this, there's some ambiguity as to the exact numbers of episodes that were agreed to. Different people have actually said different times. But it definitely seems to have been the case that there was supposed to be a production break after 13, with some people claiming that this was part of the original idea of there were going to be 26 of these dang things.
Sure.
Right? That didn't end up happening, right? They decided to just push through and just do the 17 for various reasons.
Right.
Or for, I guess, unknowable reasons. Different people say different things.
Yeah, that's true. I'm reporting information. I'm another of the Secret Brotherhood of Mutants
Yep.
My mutant power is I hear something and I assume that it is true. I don't get stronger. Yep. I just assume it's true. If you tell me your name, you tell me your name is Matthew, it simply must be.
Yep.
But regardless, there was a gap of time where Patrick McGoohan simply was not part of the equation. Correct. And so what they had to do is they had to figure out, okay, well, how do you tell a story about number 6 without Patrick McGoohan?
Yep.
And what you have is Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling.
Yeah. I think at this point it makes sense for me to jump into the episode summary.
Brendan, tell us what happens in Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling.
The episode starts unusually with a Sir Charles and his associates unsuccessfully attempting to analyze photographs to determine the location of a Professor Seltzman.
Can I pause you really quick?
Of course.
I want to really stress how different this is. This show opens with a cold open.
Yeah.
There's never been a cold open in The Prisoner.
No.
It opens with characters we've never seen before, talking about something we've never seen happen before. It is completely out of hand. It is ridiculous.
It is.
Go ahead.
After an unusually curtailed intro sequence, we follow the helicopter of a new character, the Colonel, as he arrives at the village. He meets with a new number 2, and they both watch a loop of Patrick McGoohan pacing back and forth and pretend it's a live feed. 2 reveals that they have a mind-swapping device created by Professor Seltzman, along with another device that deletes memories. 2 then calls some goons to grab Patrick McGoohan's stunt double, Frank Maher, from 6's house. They then properly swap 6 and the Colonel's brains and erase 6's memories of the village. 6, in the Colonel's body, wakes up in his London home and immediately has to deal with 6's previously unseen fiancée, Janet. Sending her off, 6 returns to the office where we saw him resign, now with a new owner, and manages to fail to convince some other former colleagues that he is 6 in the Colonel's body, including Sir Charles. 6 then attends Janet's birthday party, grabbing a receipt and a kiss in a garden. With the receipt, he retrieves the photographs from the opening and quickly deciphers them to reveal Seltzman's location. 6 meets Seltzman, trailed by a representative of the British intelligence and the village. The 2 are attacked and promptly return to the village. Seltzman agrees to demonstrate the mind swap reversal technique, which is the only reason the village wanted him, but claims he has to be part of the process. The mind swap appears to work, but Seltzman collapses from the stress. The Colonel leaves, a job well done, only for Seltzman to briefly revive and mention number 1. 6, finally played by Patrick McGoohan, then gets up to deliver the reveal that Seltzman swapped his mind into the Colonel's body in order to escape.
And so you can see how, if you've never seen The Prisoner before and you load this thing up, it's like, whoa, they're really playing with the format, aren't they? They figured out another way to shoot an episode of The Prisoner where he's not in the village.
Yep.
This is so neat.
Yep.
Now, look, it is neat, but unfortunately, you also beyond. Oh God, I'm dying.
The village. They've got the gas that makes you cough.
A conceit can be neat, but you also need a script and actors.
Yeah. Let's actually get to the second half of the production issues here.
Please.
Because you just got to the first half. This is the first half that I knew when I was even first watching this series in terms of what the heck was happening with this, 20-something years ago. The second half that I didn't know until I started looking into it here is that actually the script writer for this episode is Vincent Tilsey, right? Who also wrote Chimes of Big Ben, right? We talked about it at the time, but he did like soap operas, prestige TV, and also political thrillers, right?
Right.
He writes an initial version of the script. That initial version of the script, before he leaves the show, is approved by script editor George Markstein.
Okay.
Both of these two, Vincent and George, are credited on this episode, but I have my doubts because his script was basically entirely rewritten. Patrick McGoohan then flies off to go do this other thing. And whoever was left behind, who I suspect was basically Lou Grade, who constantly wanted to have, more kissing and more fighting than Patrick McGoohan was okay with, basically rewrites the episode. This is now my current understanding of what the heck happened here.
Do you think the executive producer, not even the executive producer, like the financier?
I don't think he did it personally, no, to be clear.
Okay.
I expect what happened here is...
But he made his will known and made people do things.
That's my understanding, right? Because the director is also Pat Jackson, right? Mm-hmm. So this is his fourth, right? He also did A, B, and C. He did Schizoid Man. He'd done a bunch of these that, like, we really like. These are some of our favorite, The Prisoner episodes, right? And so I don't think he would have led to this situation either.
I would like to think not.
And so I think it's either, maybe the producer David Tomblin is involved, right? I don't know who, but somebody is involved in this and basically rewrites the script such that when Patrick McGoohan gets back, they've already filmed the majority of this new script and he's just stuck with it.
Might should have left it on the shelf.
They could have, right? But anyway. So, but I do really want to quickly, before we get into like the actual episode, I want to talk you through this original script because it's so much better. It's crazy.
Please.
So the original opening was actually, we start with number 2 mocking Angelo.
What?
Yes. Number 2 is mocking him because he said, you have no loyalty to number 2s. And he's kind of right. Angelo just like will serve whoever the number 2 is, but isn't like upset when they're gone. Right?
Yeah.
And and
he's still alive as a result.
Yeah. And this guy, says to Angelo, don't worry, I'm going to be around for a long time. So you got to get used to me. Right? Sure. So we get some number 2 characterization, which is completely missing from this episode.
It is, yeah.
We actually see the memory deletion process. So they grab 6 and they're going to use the clever thing here in the original script is they're still just using a lot of that like static shot that they have of 6 that you see in the background in some scenes where he's like hooked up to the devices and stuff.
Yep.
But they're going to use
it looks like this is in a 9 Inch Nails music video from like 1997.
It's true. And they're going to play various things over that, like in flashback, right?
Okay.
So they show the reversal of the series so far. So you see clips from the episode going back to Arrival to show how they're deleting going backwards.
That's clever.
So we see that. And then we also see them using a coffin to return him to his apartment.
That's good.
Which explains why everybody's dressed up as undertakers when they're out and about, right? When village operatives are out and about.
Sure, that's good.
They deleted his memory, and they delete it up to, we see all the way to the flashback, up to the intro sequence. We see him delete the memory up to right before he resigns.
So he doesn't know he's resigned.
And he wakes up that morning and goes to resign.
Great, good.
Which is like, oh my God.
That's such a better plan.
It's so juicy.
Yeah,
right?
That's great.
So he immediately, like, there's no bit with Janet here. She shows up, later. He immediately goes and he goes to like try to resign, right? Mm-hmm. So Sir Charles Portland, that's his full name, basically becomes the number 2 of the episode because he's watching all this happen. He and 6 don't interact. He's just watching what's happening. And the clear implication is that he's on the village's side.
Right. Okay.
And so he's a village agent. He's like the local number 2 or whatever, who's watching 6 go through all this and is doing the number 2 stuff in terms of trying to manipulate him towards pursuing the thing they want, which is Seltzman.
Is Sir Charles still number 6's superior in some way?
Yes, former boss, right?
Okay.
Is the idea. There's a fun bit during the puzzle solution where both 2 and Sir Charles are like separately watching 6 do the puzzle. So you get the same thing of like the cut in watching the recording, but from both perspectives, which is fun. Also, he keeps on having like PTSD flashbacks to the village in this script.
Okay.
So good. When the waiter comes out in the small town and says, "Welcome to the village," he has a like 1,000-yard stare, and they do like flashbacks to the village in the background behind him. And then when they actually get to Seltzman, Seltzman tries to convince 6 to just leave and says, "Hey, you have your own mind. Isn't that enough?" Right? Which is really good in terms of playing off the final decision Seltzman's going to make. Right?
Right.
So after the gas man under the sort of Undertaker village agent shows up, right? And he like gasses 6 as he does in the episode. But then there's a whole conversation he has with Seltzman. In which he implies that the village and the British intelligence are on the same side.
Okay.
Because notably, he also gasses Potter, who's like the British intelligence guy who like took him, like followed him to Seltzman's place.
Yep.
And they don't kill him or anything. He just like props him up, like sits him up and is like, he's a good agent. We'd hate to lose him. And then Seltzman's like, yeah, I know about your gas because I invented your gas.
Okay.
Which is really good, right? Because like we already seen, okay, here's the super intelligent Seltzman guy. He invented this mind swapping technique. And now we have this implication he's invented other technologies that the village has been using. So it like ties together what's happening and actually gives some explanation of what's going on there, right? And then the final sort of bit is all very similar, right? Except the one thing I thought was really fun is when Six first wakes up in his own body with like all his memories back, they redo the opening exchange here. So they do the where am I in the village, but here after he wakes up, which is a lot of fun. But otherwise the ending is basically the same.
Sure.
But I think that more broadly, right, like they have this much better script, right? And then they cut it down or they changed it around for reasons completely unknown to me.
Yeah, like I'm thinking through what we have and what you have just related to me. And I'm trying to figure out what you get by going from one to the other. And it's not a lot.
No.
Very, very little of the like like watching number 6 doing spy stuff.
Yep.
Where he is not explicitly like getting involved in the bizarre politics of the village or actively planning to escape or something like that. Or maybe spy stuff sort of like crosses into that stuff because he is a spy. But when he's doing other stuff, when he is doing stuff that is more like, all right, I'm going to be a secret agent for a little while, which we have seen him do before. There's two things that I like discovering about that. One is information about number 6 and his life and the way that he interacts with the world and the people that seem to know him and regard him and what their perspectives on him can tell me about the man himself, that kind of thing. And 2 is the actual mechanics of spy stuff, right? Like the actual like, all right, well, being a secret agent within this, you know, media version of the world, what does that look like? Is that entertaining? Is that ingenious in some way? And I feel like this episode fails in both of those regards.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Like, I think, unfortunately, this doesn't really get at any of the back at home stuff that we like out of Many Happy Returns.
Yep.
Nor does it really like showcase anyone in a particularly bright light as regards like plot or I think Seltzman more than anyone else turns out looking like the person who's got a plan, because everyone else seems to be like pretty easily fooled.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. I think that what's happened here is that you had a talented writer write a pretty darn good script, which then somehow got put through the hands of people who they thought knew what the public wanted. And it just sort of diluted it down into something that's not great.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, we've brought up before that a lot of this is examining what is it like to have this one singular person in charge of the thing. What is it like to have an auteur making the thing that he wants to make?
Right.
And, you know, we have made no secret of judging, you know, Patrick McGoohan's faults where they are, but he did know how to get a thing made, and he was good at making those things. Yep. And I think that shows itself here.
Yep. Well, we can jump into the episode as it actually ended up being, I guess. Because I do think there's a couple interesting things here, particularly at the very sort of start of the episode.
Do you know what this opening music is called?
No, I don't. What is it?
It's called Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling.
Oh, of course, right?
Yeah.
It's the song, Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling. That one.
Yeah, it was the theme to a movie called High Noon,
Right.
If people want to know more about this, it was interesting. It's sort of one of the first examples of a movie having a theme song attached to it. There's a really, really good article by Deborah Allison on sensesofcinema.com all about it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, the Will Smith credits rap of the day.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like the Will Smith credits rap of the day. Hey, if Will Smith did a rap at the end of The Prisoner, what do you think it would sound like?
No, neither of us are Demi Juibe. Neither of us have the capacity to write such a thing.
Hey, if you're Demi Juibe, write in.
Man, if he listened, that'd be incredible.
We can only pay you an exposure, so...
Yeah, he definitely needs that from us. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of this we've already sort of talked through in this intro bit, right? One of the things that I thought was kind of interesting, the final version of the script after it had been butchered, the Sir Charles and Stapleton doing the trying to solve the puzzle of the photographs.
Yeah.
That sort of cold open is actually moved up. So that was supposed to be happening while Six was trying to solve it himself, or was solving it himself. And the idea was to cut back and forth between those two.
Sure. I admit I completely forgot about the photographs until they reappeared in the episode. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to be said for having them cut back and forth.
Maybe. I mean, it also doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, it gives this sense that, like, the British intelligence are also, for some reason, like, recently still after, Saltzman, even though it's been a year plus since his disappearance.
Maybe they just really stuck on this puzzle,
Well, it's been a year and we've kept on looking at these photographs. Let's look at them again. Anyway, one of the things I thought was cool after like the little Colonel and 2 introduction scene, and I want to talk about these actors in just a second, but when they actually go to grab Frank Maher pretending to be Six from Six's house, they're using those same guard outfits, if you remember from back in the General, right?
Yep.
Like, we haven't seen those for a while. And one of the things that I think is fun in this episode is we get a sense of, like, what do different sort of tiers of village operatives look like, both in and outside the village, right?
Yeah, these guys are dressed almost in, like, workman's, not quite hazmat suits, but definitely, like, all monochrome with, like, a pith helmet on top and big white gloves.
Yeah, it's really interesting as an outfit. It kind of almost looks like a UN peacekeeper's outfit.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me talk about the actors that as such as they are in this episode.
Sure, yeah.
So we have Clifford Evans. He's our number 2.
What do you think of Clifford Evans?
Not great.
Let's both say one nice thing about Clifford Evans. I like his hair.
I like his eyebrows.
Yeah, we did it. So the nicest podcast about the 1960s spy show, The Prisoner.
So he was a guy who guest starred in like Avengers and The Saint, right? So he's one of these guys.
Sure.
He was best known for starring in various like small British films like Hammer Studios' Kiss of the Vampire, which I thought was fun.
Ooh.
He played Professor Zimmer, an often inebriated vampire hunter in that.
Great. Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, that would have been a better character for this number 2.
God, there should have been a vampire episode of The Prisoner.
I was thinking a sloshed number 2, but I do like the idea of a vampire number 2.
I think they should just they should reveal at this point that Colin Gordon is still in the village somewhere. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. With a cape. Like he had. So then we also, in this case, get our Sir Charles, who is John Wentworth. He's basically an ITV like series regular guy. Mm-hmm. He played a character in The Main Chance, and played a bunch of like characters with sirs, right? So like knighted characters in the Avengers.
Lancelots.
So, yeah, exactly. So he's very much in this mode, right? And then we have Stapleton, who is Lloyd Nelson Lamble, who is an Australian actor. Again, a bunch of Avengers stuff. And our last person to talk about is perhaps the most important person to talk about, which is the number 6 for this episode, who is Nigel Stock, right? The Colonel / number 6. So the audience at the time, if they were watching this, would have known him as Dr. Watson in like the Sherlock Holmes films that like Peter Cushing was Sherlock Holmes in.
Okay.
So they would have seen him. They would have gone, oh, yeah, Dr. Watson.
Yeah.
Right? he got his own spin-off show from a sort of Grey's Anatomy of the time called The Doctors, called Owen MD, which ended up running longer than the actual show, which is kind of fun.
That's always nice.
So he's a well-regarded television actor, right? Is the basic idea here.
Yeah.
I just don't think he can match Patrick McGoohan. What do you think of him?
I think, and I'd seen this episode before, so I knew to expect this guy walking on screen.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, he walked in.
Uh-huh.
And I swear to God, I thought it was Justin McElroy. And once that thought entered my mind, I couldn't get it out. I think it's just a baby-faced Justin McElroy.
Oh my God.
Grumping all over jolly old England, trying to get back with his babe and her mean dad.
He should have done a Munch Squad. That would have fixed it all. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he's a perfectly fine actor, but I think that Patrick McGoohan just has like an edge to him. Like, McGoohan can play mean in a way that, like, I do not see Nigel Stock playing mean.
There's barely any change in volume in this man, There's not even the attempt at a McGoohan impersonation, which, if he couldn't do it, then maybe that's the thing to do. But like, if you're trying to get someone who knows and believes themselves to be number 6, then I feel like you've got to make an effort at it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if like the other guy who's in the room when you're talking to Sherlock Holmes is the guy to get for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want the guy who's a good sounding board to be Patrick McGoohan.
Right.
Patrick McGoohan is not somebody who listens to other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want a good impersonator, right?
Totally. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's been some number 2s, right, who could do a better Patrick McGoohan.
Sure.
Oh, well. Anyway, so that's basically the entirety of the intro already. We then sort of have a first-person perspective sort of trailing track for a while, right? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, were you getting to where they've already swapped their brains?
I think so. Was there something else?
Just backing up, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but I want to, there's a level of sloppiness to this script.
Yes.
Which, we've talked about the script and the fact that it has changed. We can't figure out, and probably will never know, why it changed in the way that it did. And certainly a lot of prisoner scripts, particularly when you take into consideration episode order shenanigans, have a certain degree of sloppiness and have to take it on face value that is always evident. But this one really, really feels like it, where there's just like big, bold strokes just taken off into different directions that absolutely do not go anywhere or make any sense. In this opening bit where he's talking about introducing this idea of thought transference, introducing both the idea that the minds can be swapped and that the yogi of India,
the yogi bears.
Are capable of doing it. In the same scene, within a minute, the colonel says he's seen thought transference done in India, and then not 3 sentences later says, that's impossible, it can't be done.
I think what was supposed to happen there is he's saying that he's seen, aesthetics in India or wherever who can like go for a month without eating, because that's also was brought up just before it. And so I think there's like an unclear thing here where they're saying like, okay, so there's this ability to like have your mind leave its body, and you can like have the body enter, suspended animation.
Sure. If you're saying thought transference is the ability to send your mind out of your body rather than swap it into someone's body. Transference, I feel like, has a certain weight to it. You know what I mean?
No, I agree.
This is exactly what I mean. The sloppiness of it, right?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
It's not clear at all.
No, you're absolutely right. Then they take him to the amnesia room, which is a great name for a room. And then, yes, he wakes up and he is in first-person perspective.
Yep, he's in the video game, finally. We keep on talking about how this is like a video game.
That's right. It's just like Myst. He has to click to move forward.
Yep.
It's like the prequel to Riven.
His watch is way too tight on his arm.
Yep.
God. And then the Patrick McGoohan doing the voiceover here. Oh, man.
I'm awake. Time for bread.
The most, I'm going to guide you through an early point and click adventure. I've just clicked on Janet's portrait. I've said, Janet, I hope she likes the present I got her. I can always return it if not.
He does say that.
He does.
No one's ever said this.
Oh, man. And the delivery, like, he's skipping words in the delivery.
He sounds drunk.
He does sound drunk.
He was probably on the airplane on the way back.
Yeah, they somehow put a recording studio. I mean, at the time, you can put like a grand piano in the planes back then. It was ridiculous.
He probably had a USB mic.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah, he had a Yeti.
Yeah. God, I'm glad Patrick McGoohan isn't around to have a podcast. That'd be miserable.
It would be pretty bad.
Yeah.
The problem these days is technology.
Yeah.
I wonder who his guests would be. Anyway. Yeah, okay. All right. So we got kind of stuck on this.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp.
They should have gotten you to be 6. That was
BetterHelp.
great.
Well, I've listened to him a lot over the past few months.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, there's a little bit of like a weird clip show here. They're clearly
there's
trying
a lot
to like
of
buy
clips.
time. Yeah.
It almost feels like the clip show episode, you know what I mean? Where it's like, boy, we just need to remind everyone what happened on The Prisoner for the past few weeks. Let's just do that.
Yeah. We've run out of animation budget, so what we're going to do is we're going to have an episode where we have the different characters in a quiz show about the earlier episodes.
Number 6 is writing a letter home.
Dearest Janet, you'll never believe what happened to me.
I passed the hunter exam. I am now friends with Killua.
Killua Soldic, if you can believe it. Man. Can you tell that we don't want to talk about this episode, listener? Anyway. Okay. All right. We got to get through this. So, there's some cut bits here in the script where 6 the Colonel as 6 is supposed to be out loud trying to rationalize what happens, and he out loud comes to the conclusion about Seltzman, that it must have been Seltzman. Like that technique must have been done to him. Because he already knew about the technique, right? That's why he was like in contact with Seltzman.
Right.
By the way, they did change his name from Seltzman to Saltzman. Or sorry, from Saltzman to Seltzman.
Why is that?
I have no idea. I suspect it was because they thought Saltzman was very Jewish sounding, and they wanted a little bit less Jewish sounding. It's still very Jewish sounding.
It's extremely, yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? I truly don't. So then Janet arrives.
Boy.
And
can we go back to talking about
the clip show version?
Kurapika and Leorio or something.
So Janet arrives.
Yeah, Kurapika arrives.
Kurapika arrives and says, I have a slideshow to show you, number 6. It's about how your car is in the driveway.
Jane Bastard starts playing.
Yeah! So she's apparently was just driving by.
Right.
And she happens to see 6's car in the driveway. Now, why this didn't happen during Many Happy Returns, who knows? It's a mystery. But it happens now.
Sure.
And she has come in to say, is 6 here? And 6 in the Colonel's body for some reason says, yeah, he's here.
Is my beloved fiance number 6 here in his home?
That's a full line. It's so weird that she
everyone,
says it like that.
No one will say this man's name. Not a single person.
It's very well. He's going to say a bunch of names in a second.
He is. That's fun.
What's interesting is even in the sort of reduced version of the script, she's still more sarcastic. So she's still more like, in disbelief about this, like not like, you know, like, yeah, of course, sure, that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
Which you would be, right?
Yeah. This is ridiculous.
But for some reason, she's being directed like, okay, now we want you to be like you were just born yesterday. And go. Okay, so this is Zenna Walker.
Actually, before you talk about Zenna Walker, can I say,
of course,
I was looking at your notes, and Nigel Stock is William Marshall in Lion in Winter, yet another Lion in Winter cameo in our show.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those.
It's as if there was an island and there were only 12 actors on it.
It's true.
Yeah.
More on that in a second, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So Janet, Zenna Walker won a Tony in 1968. This is a Tony Award-winning actress. This is
what did she get that Tony for?
A play called A Day in the Death of Joe Egg. It's really depressing.
I don't know. It sounds like oh my God, I looked at the cover. Never mind. Wait, is that Eddie Izzard? Oh my God.
I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised if she was also in a production of this.
Hey folks. Don't look up the plot to A Day in the Death of Joe Egg.
It's depressing, as I said. Anyway.
It's really bad.
So Zenna Walker was mostly an accomplished stage actress. She had like very occasional film and TV roles. And whatever worked for her on stage, she is not being directed well in this episode. It's rough.
It is rough.
She's not given much to work with, but like even then, like they're directing her like the most doe-eyed, like empty-brained person of all time.
Her hair looks like the helmets that the Rebel Alliance wears.
Oh, that's what it was. She was just really tired after saving the galaxy. From Darth
Yeah, she got back from Yavin 4.
Yep.
She was driving back from Yavin 4. She saw her fiance's Lotus in the street.
She parked her X-Wing next door. Daddy,
you've sent him to the Outer Rim, haven't you? You wouldn't have told me. God, I don't want to talk about this show.
It's not a great episode.
Why did I make this podcast?
It gets better. It gets better.
My name is Matthew.
It's true. Okay, so when we see him leave to go to the office, right?
Yep.
We spot for the first time this Undertaker, who's going to be pursuing him basically the whole episode.
Right. They play the Prisoner theme song as he gets in the Lotus. It is the most like failed attempt to put this Justin McElroy boy over. It is not working. It is so unearned.
One of the things that's interesting to me is the Undertaker is still unidentified. We don't know who played this guy in this episode.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like this guy. This guy has some of the best presence in the whole thing. He's really,
scary.
really good.
Yeah, he's good. It was so funny. Remember back in Many Happy Returns where you're like, I wish that they'd saved him like redoing the opening sequence for a later episode. Well, they just do it again.
Yeah.
But now it's Justin McElroy.
Yeah, Justin McElroy is in the back rooms.
It's true.
And unfortunately, George Markstein isn't on the show anymore, so they don't have him to use.
No, they have Danvers instead.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's not great. This is Patrick Jordan. He actually was in Star Wars, which is really funny. He's Imperial Officer Cass.
Yeah, of course he is. Everyone knows Imperial Officer Cass.
Yeah, our favorite character from Star Wars. Apparently, Obi-Wan Kenobi's actor got on the job, which is funny to me.
That's great.
Anyway, sorry, no, there's a funny fact here. Patrick Jordan, the guy who plays Danvers here, was given, because it was just like it was like a one-time speaking, like it's a one scene that he's in Star Wars. And he was offered either a small fee or a small share of the royalties. And he chose the former because he didn't think the movie was going to do well.
Yo, of course.
Why would you, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, imagine that. Imagine being in that situation, being like, I could have retired off of that. Man. Anyway, so I think this scene with Danvers, Danvers is kind of nothing, but I think it's the closest that we get to actually 6 seeming like 6 in this episode.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Like Stock, managed to summon a sort of like justified anger here, which is very righteous. Patrick McGoohan. Yes, exactly. A righteous anger here that's very Patrick McGoohan. Mm-hmm. So it's at this point that we get, Danvers freaks out, hits a button because he's literally being shaken back and forth like this, right? Where we have like Villiers here, James Bree, he's a stage and supporting actor and TV and film, who comes in, and it's here that he says a whole bunch of interesting things about who number 6 is.
Yes.
So he says, he asks for his name, and he says, code name or real name? And the guy says code, and he says, in France, Duval. Germany, Schmidt. And for some inexplicable reason in Italy, Johansson. Which Great. Is, all right, that's okay. And then, but you would best know me as ZM73, which is like, that's his 007, right?
Sure.
The series has told us now this is his secret agent code name.
In one version of reality, yes.
Yeah, fair.
More to say that on that later.
I do want to talk about the canonicity of this whole episode at some point, but one of the things that I kind of thought was interesting was ZM73 versus XO4, if you remember back in Hammer into Anvil, right? Mm-hmm. So Z, Z, and M, right, are both 2 letters off from X and O. And 73-4 is, the difference between those. Okay. And so, this is not like I'm not doing numerology here, to be clear. I'm not saying, and if we subtract these numbers, we get the day the earth ends, right? But I do
that's
think
what his podcast would be about.
Oh, yeah, true. But I do think there's something interesting here where if we imagine that this is true and this is his code name, and he's like trying to come up with like, okay, what's a good secret code name? You can kind of see how you'd get there, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I just thought that was fun.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I'm trying to do
feels true.
something to connect episodes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Then they get in the elevator. And this is where we're going to spend the next 40 minutes.
Brendan, I immediately thought of you when I rewatched this elevator ride, because you may not know this about Brendan, listener, but Brendan really likes those videos where they recut something so it loops forever. And it struck me that you could do an incredible edit here of them just constantly going up this elevator for all time.
Matthew.
Oh?
I love you too.
Oh?
That's exactly what I was thinking of
doing. It's like we know each other or something.
It's true.
It is deeply funny.
It's so small.
Small.
And they keep glaring at each other, and it keeps going.
It's 2 men with so much angry tension in between them, forced into a broom closet. And they keep the camera tracking on them for 2 whole minutes.
And it's like a lift. There's no front. Like it doesn't close.
No. It's one of these elevators that they got rid of eventually because they were extremely unsafe. But it was just like one of those, it's just constantly going up and down in a building. And so you just hop on and off it.
Yeah.
God.
He gets to Sir Charles.
Well, before that, we see Potter for the first time.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
I thought this was really interesting. This is Frederick Abbott, who's playing Potter here. He's an Australian actor. He did a bunch of TV work, Danger Man, Avengers, etc. He's one of these. But the fact that they name him Potter is really fascinating, right? Because if you remember Danger Man, we had Potter being like the handler for 6 in those 2 really bad episodes.
Yeah.
Right?
The inept man abroad.
Yes, for John Drake. And I don't think this is meant to be Potter, like that Potter. Like their roles are completely different. This guy's like a guard and somebody who tails people. He's not like an ambassador or whatever.
Right.
But it's interesting that they're reusing the name even. So I just wanted to call that out.
Why is it interesting?
Well, because again, we haven't talked about it in a while actually, right? But like there's the whole thing about, audience at the time having watched this would have watched Danger Man before this.
Sure.
Right? Or Secret Agent in the States. And so the idea of even having a guy with the same name as a guy who would have been in the last couple Danger Man episodes, right? Like something is being done there, even if it's unintentional.
Yeah, at least a form familiar to the genre.
Totally.
Sir Charles has so many phones on his desk.
Uh-huh.
And they're all color-coded.
Yep.
One for each country.
In the world. All the countries that Britain recognizes, all like 5 of them.
Canada.
Yep.
New Zealand.
Yep.
South Africa.
Uh-huh.
Monte Carlo.
You got them. That's all of them. Those all the countries.
Yeah, that's right.
This Sir Charles scene is nothing. Like, it's literally nothing.
It's like, I appreciate the diffusion of like, look, you can tell me anything, but we're spies. Anything that you tell me could have been extracted or even told voluntarily. There's nothing you could do to prove that you're who you say you are.
Yes. But this means that like all, the energy leading up, like we had a decent sequence going for a bit there. Like the Danvers stuff was good. The elevator was kind of silly, but like it all is just diffused and it goes to nothing.
It is,
right?
Yeah.
All the forward momentum goes away.
Yeah. And
I think part of the problem here is that they cut the idea that the British intelligence could be evil.
Which is crazy because they keep doing evil stuff.
Yes. Whereas if you had just accepted that like Sir Charles was in on it.
Right.
Now the scene is so much more interesting.
Or maybe even not him, but like an evil subordinate or something like that, right?
Totally.
Instead, number 6 just sort of leaves in a huff.
Yes.
Instead of like having like a confrontation of like, oh yes, of course you're who you say you are. We'll get you sorted out straight away. Or better yet, a fight or something like that. Not like a fist fight or something like that, but some kind of an altercation. Instead, it's just sort of like, well, I can't be sure you're who you say you are. And number 6 is
Guess I'll go home.
Guess this quest is over. Goodbye.
Quest failed. In big, like, text. Because of your actions, the sands of times have changed.
And then it's just him riding the elevator again for another 40 minutes. It's so long.
Oh, man, I don't know. It's not good, is the thing.
Hey, why is Potter standing guard in like a high school?
Because they didn't have money.
It's the most like we're filming at our local high school on a day when there's no students in the hallways kind of stuff.
I think this was in Day of the Daleks. Anyway.
I don't know what that means.
It doesn't matter. It's Dalek episode where they're in a high school. Anyway.
Sure. Is that after Greed Island? I haven't seen Up to Greed Island.
It is after Greed Island, but before Cat Island. Which is where they turn the master, the enemy of the doctor, into a cat boy. Anyway.
Justin McElroy gets in his car and drives in front of a green screen.
He does.
And he's so sad.
He's about to do a lot more driving in front of a green screen.
I know.
It's not even a green screen, I don't think. I think it's like one of this big
screen.
Yeah. It's a projector. Anyway. One of the things that it struck me in this episode, again, I was just grasping at straws, Brendan. We haven't previously talked about it, but there is this sort of continual thing. We have talked about this theme of the village kind of being like an afterlife.
Yes.
Right? This has come up quite a few times in terms of saying, hey, 6, you're dead. We're going to symbolically kill you. I'm killing you.
That's part of why I like the Undertaker's delivering the coffin, right? It's like, yeah, you're back here, but you're still dead.
Exactly. And I do like the idea of then it being Undertakers as the representatives of the village outside of the village.
Right.
Right? Because that's like, if we think about it, the representation for death outside of death is an Undertaker.
Sure, totally.
So I think that's just fun. And, it's them that takes you to death. They take you to the... Anyway, there's a lot of fun stuff there, right? Somebody else had good ideas that happened to be in this episode is really what happened.
Yeah, and his name was Patrick McGoohan.
Or it could have been George Markstein.
Sure, absolutely. Or the art director whose name escapes me right this second.
Yeah, but he's great. So then we have this fun little bit of checking his handwriting.
Yes, that's fun.
I mean, so he's just been so disappointed. Like
Matthew laughed because as soon as he said that, I made a deeply exasperated face.
Yeah. He's going to go try to get money for some reason. Like, the 6 physically is being played, right, in such a way that he's like in a huff. Nigel Stock is in a huff. He's going around the room. Patrick McGoohan is doing voiceover work as if he's mildly entertained by what's happening on screen.
Yeah, as if he's a ghost haunting this man. As if he's sort of like, oh, now I'm going over to the safe. Very clever.
Yeah.
I wonder if I'll remember the combination. Oh, yes, I did.
Unless the rats have gotten to it. It is a bit like he's just haunting. Like he's just watching this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, look, they're making an episode of The Prisoner without me.
Oh, how funny. How droll.
Yeah. His money in the safe is United States dollars?
That is interesting. That's in the official prisoner companion that we've talked badly about so many times. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting because it kind of suggests that 6 might have had more confidence in the dollar.
Yeah.
And hey, in the 60s, he's not wrong to. That's the right time for it.
Yeah.
They then go to Madame Engadine's party.
It is literally just Madame Engadine footage.
It's in fact, the way they cut it is that the A, B, and C clip ends as the Do Not Forsake Me, My Darling clip begins. You can literally put them back and forth. I went back to check. It's not good. Okay, so here's the thing that I thought was interesting that I didn't catch the first time watching this, or even the second or third time. The guy who gives champagne to 6 in the Colonel's body is the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
And like
he's got a nighttime gig.
I mean, I think it's more that he's just, but it does a nice job of showing off. Like, again, there were good ideas in this episode, right? Like somebody was being
shadowed by these people,
and shadowed like this, right? Because we also see Potter shadowing him.
Yes,
and Potter's doing a very bad job. He's just driving up. Whereas the Undertaker already has a job as a waiter at the party. Mm-hmm. Somehow, right? There's just like a difference in competence here, which is kind of startling.
Yeah, he's probably, showing up, smothering someone, stealing their tuxedo, stealing their tray, and going out to the party, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's doing a hitman level, basically.
Sure.
Wait, hold on. Brendan, we talked about we should have a segment on how he fixed this. What if this whole episode is from the Undertaker's perspective?
So you'd have to start by picking him up and delivering him from the village back to England.
And we see him spying on 6 remotely through the confrontations and stuff.
Sure. I
mean,
mean,
we see
at that point you'd have the Undertaker follow him into the Secret Service offices or something like that. Right?
Totally. Again, swapping, swapping outfits, right, regularly in this.
Oh, you'd be able to eventually disguise yourself as Seltzman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. Just as if you're doing a weird, gimmick episode.
Yeah, the whole thing from someone else's perspective. That'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah, it would help mask that, your number 6 actor can't really be number 6.
Yeah, whenever we do our reboot Prisoner, we'll fix it.
Yeah, we're going to fix it. We know better than Patrick McGoohan, as we've established.
No, we're the proper inheritors to Patrick McGoohan's will. We're the only ones that really understand him.
Yeah, totally, because we're Catholics.
Right.
So there's this party.
She's there.
Janet is there. She's
it's her
surrounded
birthday.
by boys. Yeah. They have dance books. This is back when there were dance books, actual dance books. You'd sign up, right, to dance with somebody at a certain time.
I've never heard them called books. I thought it was a card.
Yeah, sorry, dance cards. You're right.
A dance, yeah. Because they're room on your card.
Yep. There's some back and forth here, right? There's, he has implied that he'll have a message from 6, right, back in the earlier scene. And so this is all about, saying he's going to give this message, but he can't do it here. Go get that receipt if you ever want to see him again, or et cetera, right? There's a bunch of cut stuff from the script here. Most of it doesn't really matter, but they were supposed to make a longer how do you do about Janet taking a while for, to get the receipt. Like, she keeps on being grabbed by various guests doing bits.
I was wondering about that because they seem to make a deal of like, oh, it took forever, and no, it didn't.
No,
because they cut all of that stuff.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, there's like an old guest who is credited and is like in the background of a shot who's supposed to like be like, oh, you have to have respect for old people, young lady. And there's a young
old people
guest.
Say.
That's what they say. And there's a young guest who's supposed to like, you know, be like, hey, babes, let's go and Charleston on the dance floor kind of thing. And that's just cut. The young guest, though, Brendan, is John Nolan, who is the paternal uncle to Christopher Nolan.
Wow.
And was a Wayne Enterprises board member in Batman Begins.
I don't know why that got me so much more than just the connection.
It's because, you know, it's basically like showbiz royalty, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, to have it be like reverse nepotism, where now my nephew's gonna get me jobs, right? Like, he's also in person of interest for like multiple seasons.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, it's just funny.
Man, remember the Nolan Batman movies?
I do. Why do we full much to wine?
Batman Begin.
Remember Morbius? Remember the 90s?
Nope, I sure don't.
Jeez Louise. Anyway, so okay, besides the script going silly, right? And not really fitting with the plot, eventually we get to the garden, and he just kisses her to prove that it's him.
Yeah, he does do that.
What?
He says, yeah, here's the message. And like,
he kisses below both her eyes and kisses her nose and then kisses her lips, and she like gets really into it.
Let's break this down.
Yes.
This is the first time we've ever seen number 6 kiss a lady.
It's true.
Does that mean this episode is canonical? No.
The idea that like, so this kiss for some reason is so powerful, she's completely convinced it has to be 6 after this. He has some sort of kissing technique, his secret forbidden kissing technique he uses.
Yeah, he gets a little bit sloppy with it.
Justin McElroy, how could you?
Like, you got to have a couple of handkerchiefs on hand.
She basically goes like, no one, it couldn't have been anyone but you, my beloved fiance number 6.
No one runs their tongue against my teeth like you do.
And so the idea that like, the implication here that he has refused to kiss any other women because his kissing technique is so powerful.
They'll be activated. They'll turn into demons. You don't understand.
They become insatiable. They're desperate for more kisses.
They'll kill you, number 6. You're too strong. Your kiss is too wet.
But she's waited a year. This guy's probably dead. She knew he was a spy. It's been a year. She's heard nothing. And she's like, I gotta get more of them kisses.
Is it just that she's so desperate to think that the first time anyone's kissed her in a year, she's like, I don't know, maybe. It's been so long. I don't remember.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, there's not enough about Janet.
There's
certainly not outside this episode. And certainly, believe it or not, we're not going to see her again.
No, not even a mention. The weirdest thing is that they fade to black.
Fade to black.
Is the implication that they hooked up off screen?
It seems that way.
In the script, she just walks away.
No, it fades out as he advances. Even if it's just for more kissing. That it's really like...
More of those wet kisses.
Oh.
God. Anyway.
Here's where I want to bring this up.
Oh, okay.
There's been multiple episodes now where we get, as far back as Chimes of Big Ben, we've started to see instances of scripts that try to gesture at the loyalties, the employment that Number 6 held before he went to the village.
Totally.
And so now we have, a third or a fourth different, like, employer, head of the agency. Like, even if we're to take, like, Jay, James, and Sir Charles is all working for the same establishment, it's like...
Yeah.
There's no continuity to it, right?
No.
And I wonder if maybe viewing this now, you're almost better off thinking about it not as all part of one continuity, but as different possibilities.
Sure.
Thinking about like, oh, well, we don't really know a whole lot about and who he worked for, and we're very deliberately not going to show you that. Right. But here's one version of it that you might see. And so as we get towards the end, I'm almost thinking about these episodes almost in clusters of like, oh, well, you can assume that this timeline has these episodes and this timeline has these episodes linked together.
Sure.
And at some points they converge, and then at other points they diverge wildly, that kind of thing. It's just like, there's no productive read that tries to like incorporate like, okay, well, if you think about the Colonel and you assume that he knows or was replaced by Sir Charles, et cetera, like, I just don't know what you get from doing any of that kind of stuff.
No, I mean, there's a little bit you can do here in terms of like we have a year, right? Like, this is one of the few instances where we have a date.
That's true.
Right?
Yes.
So it has been quite some time since Many Happy Returns escape.
Right.
Because that was already months in, and now we're at minimum months in from when he was grabbed, and now we're additional months out from there because it's been a year. And so you can imagine that like whoever George Markstein was playing has been replaced in that time, right? That's not unreasonable. That Danvers now has whatever his role used to be, right?
Sure.
And so there's a little bit you can do there. And then, we even talked about it with Many Happy Returns, right? The fact that Colonel James, like, bets it all on Sixus showing up again, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to believe you. I'm going to give you a plane, right? And then that doesn't go anywhere, right? He never comes back. Like, he very likely loses his job there.
Right.
And so there's, like, if you really want to put in the work, you can tie these things together.
Right. And I guess what I'm saying, like, we were talking about this before with It's Your Funeral.
Sure.
Where the work you have to do is so proportionally out of scale to what you get out of it that it's like, at this point, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's not to chide the show in any way. I just want to like gesture at it because we've talked about it when it's come up before, and I want to make it clear that like, yeah, you can do that. It's not
really worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
The juice isn't worth the squeeze, as you said.
Precisely.
I think we can do this next bit pretty fast. He's got the receipt. There's this cute little bit with the the photography store manager, right? Camera shop manager Lockwood West, who's a prolific actor in stage, film, and radio. I think he does a perfectly fine job here in terms of clearly like these photographs has already been selected and he's just sort of moved past that.
I like this guy a lot. I think
he does a nice job.
Yeah, I think he's a nice little bit part shopkeep guy in an episode desperately wanting for actors.
Yeah, he's a good character actor. The Undertaker is still following him, like super obviously following him.
Like right outside the door.
Mm-hmm. For some reason here, Six asks for a passport photo, which I assume is because he's going to go to like Austria after this, I guess.
Yes.
And he knows that, and so he needs a new passport. But like...
But he didn't know he was going to Austria yet.
Yeah. And also, did they think we were going to be like CinemaSins? Like, oh, excuse me, even though he didn't have a passport with his current face on it, he somehow gets into Austria? Excuse me, that's not right.
Yeah, like, that's probably it. They were anticipating...
They were anticipating the YouTube channels, in a sense.
That's right.
I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, I like The Undertaker a lot, but him and Potter are following him more obviously than a human being has ever been followed.
It's not great.
Six clearly looks back, sees them following him, is like, all right. Time to use this projector that I've never used in my home before. Maybe
they were concerned that we, the audience, wouldn't understand what was going on. That they were trying to follow this guy.
This is part of what I mean about it feeling a different show, right?
Yes. Because it shows a real lack of trust in the audience to understand the words and images you've put on screen already.
Yeah. And we've praised the show before for being willing to let us just see a thing and come to our own conclusions about that.
Right.
So, okay. So we've also praised the show before for visualizing a process that might be boring to watch otherwise.
Yeah.
This is not one of those times. He has to write out Seltzman, and then he counts on his fingers because he can't count himself silently to let us know what he's doing.
And that shows him which of these pictures to put all in together.
Uh-huh.
As opposed to looking at them separately.
Yeah.
Which, an entire security apparatus couldn't figure out.
Nope, they couldn't do it.
Because, inexplicably, the pictures have parts of letters written on them that spell out a town and a country.
Well, it's like coordinates, right? It's like latitude and latitude. Oh, it's not? No. Is it really just the town and a country? That's so funny. I think it was supposed to be coordinates, maybe?
Maybe it wasn't the script, but no, it literally just says Kandersfeld, Austria.
Awesome. It lets you know.
It is... I've made video game puzzles like this, and I've made them because it's due the next day, and I don't have any better ideas. It's not good.
It's not. The show is so clever so often, and yet...
Hey, why does he have these pictures?
Okay, so this is actually reasonable. So, I think there's a little bit of cut stuff in the script here, but the idea is that Seltzman and Six were in conversation. And then actually we have a character that's supposed to, because again, the Sir Charles bit from the intro is supposed to be cut in here.
Right.
And so there's actually supposed to be a character saying your question for the audience. Okay. And saying, hey, what's going on here? Why did he send them these? And the idea is that the British intelligence, at least, doesn't think they actually met in person yet. Or hadn't a year ago. But that Seltzman, they were corresponding, and Seltzman sent him this film as a way of telling him, here's where you can find me.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, that's just completely gone in the episode.
Yeah, that's not the show.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
He goes on a little
trip. He's driving in front of a projector. Potter's also there too.
It's playing some German music to let you know we're in Germany.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have no idea.
Then it's playing Austrian music to let you know you're in Austria.
The waiter says, welcome to the village, but they cut the reaction. They also cut just the conversation weirdly. There's supposed to be a zinger where Six orders a coffee and then he looks at the barbershop and goes, and then a shave, to let you know that he's going to go to the barbershop next. But they clearly recorded the whole thing from a script. They just cut it bizarrely. Anyway.
Maybe Lou Grade was also doing the edit.
In the booth, smoking a big cigar.
Yeah.
So
smile, Justin. I'm gonna make you a star.
Hey, this Justin McElroy kid, he's got moxie. I like him.
We're not British in this version of me.
I'm from Chicago. Anyway.
I like my dogs with mustard on them.
Wait, I'm turning into Danny DeVito.
I hate Batman.
I'm gonna eat a raw fish. Danny DeVito should have been in The Prisoner.
Danny DeVito should have been Bane in The Dark Knight Rises.
They do the thing they did in Lord of the Rings with Peter Jackson, where they just make you look bigger than everybody else. Man. Oh,
come on, Pippin.
Oh man, okay. I was born in the dark. Anyway. So we gotta make it through. Brendan, we're so close. We gotta make it through.
He proves he meets. Okay, first of all, he meets Seltzman. He meets Seltzman, who's just pretending to be a regular barber.
Yep. And he says, I'm number 6.
Number 6. Your friend from the village. You might have seen me on The Prisoner.
And Seltzman says, that's impossible. You're not played by Patrick McGoohan. And he says, well, what if I could just show you that I have the same handwriting as a letter that you got?
Yeah, what if I had this? Wouldn't you accept the two handwriting? The handwriting is the same as a fingerprint.
He says it exactly like that.
Wouldn't you say that it's impossible to fake someone else's handwriting?
He has several of these, like, wouldn't you say constructions in this, which is like not a way that 6 speaks ever. Like the voice is just completely wrong on 6.
And also everything that he says, whenever he says, wouldn't you say, is the most insane thing that anyone has ever said. And the person that he's talking to says, well, yes, I guess I would.
Of course.
Yeah,
that's just logical.
That's what the script says for me to say, so.
Okay, so Professor Seltzman is played by Hugo Schuster. And I think he's the best part of this episode.
I completely agree.
He was a German actor who fled Germany during World War II along with his Jewish wife. He was mostly a stage actor with some occasional TV and film performances, and I think he does a really good job. The scenes with him and, 6, he manages to bring like a warmth there that actually makes it feel like these two guys were friends, like, in years past. It's really nicely done.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's a rare breath of fresh air in this episode.
The little twinkle in his eye as he says, I'm a nostalgic old man. Of course I got the letter, right? Like, it's nice. Also, he says in theory in a minute, which is great. When he's asked if the mind transfer can be done, he says in theory.
In theory.
A woo, number 6. So then Potter arrives, who has been the most obvious tail there has ever been. And 6 goes, it's Potter, which it's not, but that's fine. We know what Potter looks like. He's a completely different actor. Then they have a fight scene in a basement.
There's so many loose wires in this basement. It's so dangerous.
The special effects in this episode aren't bad. There's some cool stuff with like electric sparking and glowing and stuff.
That's true.
Good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I do like that their hair colors change during this fight.
Well, you must understand that the yogai of India have been able to swap hair color for generations.
I like how you're saying yogai like it's yokai, like it's yokai watch.
Yeah. Well, that's how they say it in the show.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so yes, the Undertaker is dressed as the Riddler now for some reason.
He is dressed as the Riddler. He hates Batman.
Speaking of Batman, and he gasses him and he takes him back. There's no more here. It's just done.
That's it. They just haul him back.
In the script, there's a little bit of a back and forth here where they actually, the script was actually a little bit more clever than the final episode. Can you believe it? Even with the changes. And they managed to say, like, we need the village to take us both back. Like, they come up with a plan. We see them do it of saying, we need to get your mind back. We need to make sure the right people get us back.
Yes, I really like that notion of it, that they can't... That in this instance, they're framing the British Secret Service as the good guys, but if they have any hope of swapping his brain back, they can't let the good guys get him.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have the final sequence where we finally have Patrick McGoohan here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so number 2 does a little Hitler impression for some reason.
Yeah, he does.
I don't know. They're just ideas.
For once, I am dictating. Heil.
Yeah.
He agrees to let him do this process alone.
Yep. But they're going to watch.
They're going to watch. And they're not going to ask at all what this weird helmet contraption that Saltzman is wearing as he sits in between the two patients.
Yeah, he has a like a noodle strainer that he's wearing on his head.
He does have a noodle strainer. And, you know, it would have been so easy for him to just say, like, I'm wearing this helmet to protect myself from the brainwaves as I am conducting this alone.
Yep.
It'd be really easy.
In the script, there's at least a scientist who's, like, working for number 2 and clearly is, like, respectful and reverent of Saltzman.
Sure.
And is like, you know, like, oh, it's such an honor to get to work with you, and, like, sets all this up. And there's a little bit more here, but they just cut it for time, I assume.
Yeah.
So then they do the transfer.
All that time for the elevators.
Exactly.
Which I hadn't realized, that's a paternoster lift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the technical name. Incredibly dangerous devices. They have different colored brains. Their auras are different.
Yeah, that's their nen.
Oh, yeah, sorry. They manifest their nen, and they swap their nen into each other's bodies.
That's right.
You have to watch Hunter x Hunter to understand the prisoner.
Yeah.
As we've established. In the script, 6 is supposed to wake up yelling Janet, which, like, all right.
I'm glad they cut that.
I can imagine Patrick McGoohan getting back, seeing what they had done, and being like, well, I'm not saying that. And then, like, you know, Saltzman's dead, but 2 doesn't really care, despite all the effort to come get him. He's like, well, I saw it happen once. I can probably do it again.
No, that's not true. He says he mustn't die. I need him alive.
Oh, you're right. But, like, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just that the performance is just not there.
No, he says it in a pretty flat affect.
Yeah. Colonel Saltzman has to just run out of there before they notice anything's up.
Yeah, he books it to the helicopter.
Yep. This is our second episode in a row. No, sorry, not in a row, because we had something in between where we have a guy escape at the end in a helicopter.
The look that number 2 gives when he realizes that Saltzman has put his brain in the colonel's body.
Uh-huh.
It is on the helicopter and is now taking off.
Mm-hmm.
Suggests that now that he's in the helicopter, he's completely beyond the reach of the village. Yes. He's completely beyond the army of gas-spewing undertakers they have, at least across Western Europe.
Yep.
Hey, do you think the guy flying the helicopter has a radio? Or works for the village? Or is going somewhere controlled by the village? Do you think there might be another opportunity to grab this guy?
I don't know. I mean, it's nothing. It's nothing. There's nothing here.
Remember that one time number 6 got on the helicopter and then they stopped the helicopter?
They brought it back. Yeah. They just forgot they could do that.
Or the other time he got on the helicopter when he was blindfolded and he landed and he was still back in the village?
Yeah. Yeah, what happened here, Brendan, is that number 1 taught this number 2 badly as a joke. They thought it'd be funny if they taught him all the wrong things. And they were right.
Angelo, it's your birthday. And for your birthday, I've got you the worst number 2 I could think of. Do whatever you want with him. Who cares?
Have some fun.
Yeah.
I have a dozen of these in the back. Anyway, they only had like 3 minutes. They could film one scene with Patrick McGoohan. And they were like, well, obviously what we'll do is we'll have him wake up after having his memory erased and just explain the plot of the episode to the viewer in case they didn't get it.
Thank goodness.
Why? If you could just have him for one scene, why waste him here?
Also, How does he just woke up from the surgery? How does he know what happened?
Clearly there was like a mental scape battle, right?
Sure.
It's like, when Zape...
No, go ahead.
I'm just going to make another X-Men reference.
I mean, I guess Seltzman could have told him what he was going to do before he did it.
Or when they're in the brain zone, right?
Right, the Shadow King is there.
Yes, exactly, Brendan. Yeah, the Shadow King is there.
That's right.
Seltzman's the Shadow King.
That's...
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Anyway. And then the episode just ends there.
Thank goodness.
So in the script, the ending is supposed to be, only one of us could escape. But it could have been me. I thought it should have been him because I'm going to escape anyway.
I would have kept that.
It's a better ending. And if you have Patrick McGoohan, get him to deliver that line.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
I don't know, man.
What a show.
What a show. Ugh.
Well, I don't see how we could possibly do it, but we're going to do it anyway. It's time for number one with a bullet. Where we share our shining light from this past episode. A line, a role, a performance, a scene, a bit of tech, a bit of camera work, some sort of maybe a sound effect.
Okay. I can do one. I said it before, but I think the special effects in the finale sequence are actually pretty impressive, especially for the time, right? This doesn't look dated in the way that like a bunch of Star Trek, right? Or like Doctor Who effects would eventually end up looking, right? Mm-hmm. I think it looks pretty all right. It's there for a second. There's weird fizzing and there's like electric stuff happening. They do quite a nice job of like making these weird red and blue tendrils of brain juice like manifest on screen. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. It would have been really easy for that to wind up being something that we laugh at years and years later. And somehow, out of all of the stuff in this episode, that is not really all that worth laughing at. It looks good. It
does. How about you, Brendan?
I'm going to give it to the camera shop manager, Lockwood West. Like I said, I think just in terms of manner, in terms of line, in terms of attitude, I think he's just sort of a fun little bit.
Yep. There's one other thing I wanted to mention before we end, which is it is interesting here that like, the character who comes in and like takes over Six's, body or whatever in this thing, played by Nigel Stock, is given the name the Colonel, right?
Yeah.
Because that is in fitting with like the thing we talked about previously about like the Professor, right? Back from the General. Mm-hmm. In terms of like, this seems like a different branding, right? Of like a different, code name situation, not a number. He's never given a number, right? There's a sense as he is coming from outside of the village within this organization. Now, why did it have to be him? I don't know.
Maybe it's just who they had.
That we need Six to look like a Justin McElroy. Who do we got that looks like Justin McElroy? But it is interesting that's at least consistent with that, right? Mm-hmm. That naming convention, which is something.
It is something.
Anyway, we put it off for long enough. We've got to rate this show.
Rate this show. Matthew, how are you going to rate this show?
As just a piece of spy fiction, it's not terrible, right?
That's very generous of you.
If I turned it on BBC America and I'd never seen any Prisoner before, it's fine. It's not great. It's fine. As a Prisoner episode, it's like literally nothing.
Yeah.
So I am going to rate this episode 6 photographs out of millions of photograph permutations.
Tough but fair.
How about you?
I stand by what I said to begin with, which is that the sheer difference of it was really, really captivating to me on a first-time view. And
sure,
I think that particularly knowing the stuff that's in that script that already, like, it doesn't make it great, but it certainly does something more than what is here. Like I said, going into this, I really, really remembered this as like, oh yeah, I remember really, really enjoying this one when it first came around. Just for the audacity of the thing.
Sure.
And I don't think that it holds together, but I want to root for it. I'm going to give it 10 out of 40 minutes on Paternoster elevators.
Excellent. A very kind rating, I think.
Sure. A kind failing grade.
Hey, 1 out of 4 stars is still a star.
That's right. Well, speaking of 1 out of 4 stars. Hey, what was Patrick McGoohan up to while instead of making this?
Why, he was filming Ice Station Zebra.
Ice Station Zebra, the 1968 espionage thriller film, directed by John Sturges and starring Patrick McGoohan, Rock Hudson, and Ernst Borgnine.
Ernst Borgnine's in this.
Yeah.
How can it be bad?
We're going to find out, because we're going to watch it for our next bonus episode.
Yep. Be on the lookout for that, everybody.
Surely, it can't be worse than Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling.
I've never even seen it. This is going to be exciting.
I've also not even seen it. As you might have determined by the fact that Rock Hudson is in the cast, Patrick McGoohan is not the star of the movie. No. He is one of the cast, so he's not even the leading man necessarily. There's suspicion that he was planning on making more of a go at having a film career based on his success in Danger Man and The Prisoner. And then he didn't. So maybe we'll find out why.
we haven't really talked about... We talked about it a bit with the Columbo, right? But we haven't really talked about what Patrick McGoohan did directly after The Prisoner.
No, and I think that we will, but we're going to get to The Prisoner first.
We definitely will, but not yet.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I will say real quick, I just wanted to say before we end, if you got through this episode and you're like, hey, of the last 3, 2 of them have not been great. We are through the valley of the shadow of death. The remaining episodes are not this bad, I think.
See, that's very interesting. I did not.
Oh?
That's very generous of you, Brendan. Here's Matthew to be the voice of reason. Hey, if you've been watching along with us and you've thought the past couple of episodes have not been great, buddy, you ain't seen nothing yet.
You say that and you know the cowboy episode is coming up. How could you?
If you're not going to watch Ice Station Zebra with us, our next episode of The Prisoner will be Living in Harmony, a perfectly normal episode of The Prisoner.
Uh-huh. Toe to tip. That's a Prisoner episode for sure.
That's right. In the meanwhile, you can find the artist that did the cover art for our show, Cy Sweetman, at cyfsweetman.card.co. You can find the musician that did our terrific theme song, Devin Nelson, at devindecibel.bandcamp.com. You can find the show, if somehow you've lost it, at the-prisoners-dilemma.com. Matthew, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me and Matthew Guz at Blue Sky, and I just want to really quickly shout out that Devin's got some new music out from their band, and it's really good, and you should listen to it.
Yeah.
And Brendan, where can I find you?
You can find me at Matthew Guz on Blue Sky.
Ah! Got him. Well, this is problematic. If we've swapped, who says it?
Oh, I have a message for you.
Oh, yeah?
I'm reaching out. I'm stroking your face.
Why are you doing that?
I'm giving you a big, big wet kiss.
Well, thanks. It must be my fiance.
That's right. It was me the whole time. I pull off my Brendan mask. It was Brendan.
Brendan, I'll be seeing you.
Not if I see you first, baby.